All right, get ready because today we're going deep, deep into the wild world of Crayola crayon names. You know those colors, those crayon colors with the names that make you go, huh, what?
Right.
We've got this article here called Top 10 Craziest Crayola Crayon Colors, and it's awesome. It's packed with like people's opinions and funny comments about the most oddly named Crayola crayons.
Yeah.
So like, is Crayola just, messing with us, or is there some kind of like master plan behind these crazy names?
Mm.
Let's find out.
It's tempting to think of these names as just, random and silly. But actually, the psychology behind naming colors is pretty fascinating. Color names, they don't just describe a color, they can bring back memories and make you feel things, and they can even affect how you behave.
Okay.
Crayola, they're like the color pros, right?
Wow.
So they totally get this, and they're really smart about how they use it.
That's really interesting because I've always thought it was so cool how a name can like make you feel a certain way about a color. Like just say macaroni and cheese out loud. Doesn't it just like sound happy?
It does.
But then I was reading the comments on this article, and someone said, like, maybe the person who came up with that name was just like super hungry and everything looked like food to them, which is kind of hilarious.
Yeah, and that's what makes these crazy names so great. They get your imagination going, and they make you think about color in a whole new way. Like macaroni and cheese, it's not just, yellow orange. It's like a whole feeling,
Right.
like a warm, comfy bowl of mac and cheese.
Okay, so let's get into some of these crazy names from the list. Pet shop.
Okay.
I mean, really, what color is pet shop? The comments on that one were wild.
Mhm.
Some people were so confused.
Yeah.
And then others were like cracking jokes about it. Like someone said, imagine telling someone their shirt is pet shop color.
Huh.
What would their face look like?
I don't know. I think that's brilliant. The vagueness of it, like you automatically try to picture what color it would be, right?
Yeah.
But with pet shop, there's no like right answer. It's totally up to you, like based on what you think of when you hear pet shop.
Yeah.
Do you think of like a bright, shiny store with colorful toys? Or maybe a kind of sort of smelly place with hay and animals everywhere?
That's a really good point. It's almost like one of those ink blot tests, but for color.
Right.
Speaking of things that make you think of stuff,
Yeah.
what about grandma's perfume?
Oh, yeah.
That one, like, triggered a whole wave of nostalgia in the comments.
Yeah.
People were talking about their grandma's perfumes and what they smelled like. And one person even said they were going to go find out what color their grandma's perfume actually was.
Haha. Wow.
It's amazing what a name can do.
It is. It is. A name like Grandma's Perfume, it just hits you right in the feels. It's not just a color anymore. It's like a time machine, taking you back to memories and smells and maybe even missing your grandma a little. And someone said that one used to be orange.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow, okay. All right, now for something totally different. Wash the dog.
Wash the dog.
Is that like a chore or a color?
Yeah.
One person even thought it was a command, not a color at all.
Uh-huh.
Which is pretty funny.
And that's what makes it so clever. Watch the dog is it's just so out there, so silly. It makes you laugh, And it also makes you like imagine the whole scene, that the story behind the color. Is it the color of like muddy dog fur before a bath? Or the soapy water, or maybe the shiny fur after the bath?
Yeah. See, this is what I love about this deep dive. We're not just like talking about colors. We're like uncovering all this meaning and humor and memories behind these names. And speaking of humor, we got to talk about Fuzzy Wuzzy Brown. I mean, come on, it's just fun to say.
It is. It is.
And someone in the comments connected it to that kids show. Wow, wow, Wubsy. It's like these names can like tap into pop culture too.
That's right. Fuzzy Wuzzy Brown. It's all about the sound of the words, the silliness. It's light and fun and makes you want to be a kid again.
Okay, now let's look at Koala Tree. At first, it seems kind of normal, compared to some of the others.
Yeah.
But even this one got people's imaginations going. Like one person imagined koalas like literally growing on trees.
Uh-huh. What?
And another person came up with this whole long, complicated name about the bark of a really old tree that koalas like to climb on.
Wow.
It's crazy how even a kind of basic name can spark such different ideas.
It is. It shows how much we want to find meaning and connections, even in the simplest things. Like we want to make up stories and picture things in our heads, even from just a name.
Yeah.
And someone even went as far as to suggest a whole new name. They said it should be called the bark of an elderly tree that koalas climb during the day to eat the leaves and fruit.
Whoa, that's a mouthful. Okay, so we've seen some pretty wild names so far.
Yeah.
Are you starting to see any patterns, any themes, and all this craziness?
I think I am. One thing that jumps out is how many of these names are about food, like macaroni and cheese, Granny Smith apple, atomic tangerine. It's like they're trying to like connect with our senses.
Yeah.
Especially for kids who love food.
Yeah, that makes sense. Food is something everyone knows. And those names, they really do make you like see and almost taste those things.
Yeah.
But do you think it's maybe a little, I don't know, irresponsible to focus so much on food?
Right.
Like there's all this worry about kids eating too much junk food. Shouldn't Crayola be a bit more careful about that?
That's a good point. They might just be trying to make positive connections, but you're right. It could make some people think about food even more. Maybe a little more balance would be better.
Yeah, good point. So food is one theme. What else are you seeing?
Well, besides the yummy names, there's also a lot of action words, verbs, like wash the dog, tickle me pink, mango tango. These names they make you think of movement and playing, like the color is doing something.
Tickle Me Pink is a great example.
Yeah.
It's almost impossible to say it without smiling. It just makes you think of fun and being silly. One person even said, like, what if you pressed Tickle Me Pink and it started laughing like that Tickle Me Elmo toy,
Uh-huh.
which is hilarious.
Exactly. These names, they make you want to play with the colors, not just, look at them. It's like you're creating a little story in your head.
All right, and then there are the names that are like bigger ideas, like outer space, wild blue yonder, purple mountains majesty.
Yeah.
Those are pretty grand.
They are. Those names, they make you think about things beyond just what's right in front of you. They make you feel like anything is possible. And it's interesting. One person said their outer space crayon was actually black.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It makes you think, like, how do we picture something as big and mysterious as outer space? Is it really just like black emptiness, or are we just limited by what we can see from down here on Earth?
Wow, that's a deep thought from a crayon.
Mm.
So we've got food, action, big ideas. It's like Crayola's throwing a party in our brains.
Yeah, right.
But the big question is all this just like a really clever way to get us to buy more crayons? Or is there something more to it?
That is the question, isn't it? And honestly, I think it's probably a bit of both. On the one hand, these crazy names, they definitely get our attention. They make us talk about Crayola. They make the brand stand out.
It's true. I mean, we're sitting here, having this whole deep dive about crayon names. That's kind of crazy when you think about it.
Exactly. But I also think Crayola really does care about creativity and imagination. These names, they encourage us to think differently, to see color as more than just color. And they show us how powerful words can be.
It's like they're saying, hey, don't just color inside the lines. Think outside the box.
Exactly. And by doing that, Crayola has become more than just a company that sells crayons. They're inspiring us, making us happy, and even getting us to ask some big questions about the world. And they're doing it. I mean, we're here talking about like the names of crayons, not just, the colors themselves.
Right.
Crayola has like turned a simple crayon into something everyone's talking about.
It's true. It's the stories, the memories, the just plain weirdness of it all that keeps us hooked. It's like they've cracked the code. They know how to like mix color and psychology and marketing all together.
Yeah, they get it. People, they want to connect with brands that make them, feel something, brands that get their imaginations going.
Okay, so we've talked about some pretty interesting individual names, but let's zoom out for a second. What about the bigger picture? What other trends are you seeing in these crazy names?
Well, we've already talked about food and action and big ideas, but one thing that really stands out to me is how many of these names are just plain fun, like Fuzzy Wuzzy Brown, Tickle Me Pink. They're just fun to say.
Oh, and how about razzmatazz?
Yes.
That name is just like begging you to dance.
It is. And that playfulness, it makes the brand feel, friendly and approachable, especially for kids.
Speaking of kids, do you think some of these names are like made specifically for them?
Mhm.
Like macaroni and cheese, Granny Smith apple, Piggy Pink. They all have that kind of kid-friendly vibe.
You know what? That's a good point. By using names that kids already know, and like Crayola is creating a connection, like these crayons are made just for you.
And that connection, it can last a lifetime. I mean, think about it. So many of us still have like strong memories of our favorite Crayola crayons from when we were kids.
It's true. Those colors and those names, they become part of who we are, even as we get older.
Okay, let's go back to the list for a second. We haven't talked about Neon Carrot and Atomic Tangerine yet.
Oh,
What do you think about those?
they definitely stand out. Neon carrot, it's like they're playing with the idea of like super bright, almost fake colors, like pushing the limits of what a normal carrot can be.
And Atomic Tangerine, that just sounds like so cool. I mean, who wouldn't want to color with a crayon called Atomic Tangerine? And one of the comments was like, what if they replaced atomic bombs with atomic tangerine?
Uh-huh.
Like turning something dangerous into something beautiful and powerful.
That's amazing. It's incredible how these names can be like silly and serious at the same time. They're playing with words and ideas in a way that makes you think.
It's like they're walking a tightrope between being childlike
Mhm.
and being really clever with words. And they're doing it perfectly.
They are. It really shows how creative the people who come up with these names are. They're not just, picking random words. They're choosing them carefully to make us feel things, to make us think of things, and even to make us ask questions.
So we've talked about the funny names, the nostalgic ones, the ones that get our imaginations going. But some of them are just plain confusing, like Pet Shop and Wash the Dog.
Wow.
What's Crayola doing with these super vague names?
I think it's on purpose. They want us to talk about it, to try to figure it out. By using names that don't have a clear meaning, they're making us think hard about color and how we describe it.
It's like they're saying, "Hey, what do you think this color means?" Like they're making us part of the creative process.
Exactly. It's not just about coloring anymore. It's about being part of something bigger.
It's turning a crayon into a conversation starter. And speaking of conversations, some of the comments in this article were just hilarious. Like one person said they wished Tickle Me Pink would like giggle if you pressed it, like it was a real toy.
That's perfect. That's exactly the kind of playful thinking that Crayola wants to inspire. These names, they're like little seeds of creativity. They get planted in our heads and then they can grow into something amazing and
And
unexpected.
this best part is there's no right or wrong answer.
Yeah.
Everyone's interpretation is valid.
Exactly. And that's what makes Crayola so special. They understand that creativity is personal. It's different for everyone.
So is there like a secret formula for coming up with a crazy Crayola crayon name?
Hmm. I wouldn't say there's a formula, but there are definitely some common things. Some things they all share. They're fun. They make you think of things, and they're often a little bit mysterious. They're telling us that color can be funny and nostalgic and even a little rebellious.
And they definitely make us talk. We've been dissecting these names for a while now, and I feel like we've barely scratched the surface.
It's true. There's so much to explore here. It's like a rabbit hole of creativity and imagination, and I really encourage everyone to dive in and see where it takes them.
You mentioned how outer space made you think about some pretty big questions. Are there other examples of crayon names that touch on deeper stuff, even if it wasn't intentional?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. You know, lavender might seem like a pretty basic, straightforward name,
Yeah.
but when you think about it, lavender has been used for like medicine and spiritual stuff for centuries. So it connects us to this long history of how humans have interacted with nature and how we've given meaning to colors beyond just what they look like.
That's a really cool way to think about it. A color named after a plant. It's not just a color. It's like a whole story about culture and a history. It reminds us that even the simplest names can have like hidden meanings waiting for us to uncover them.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole exploration so rewarding. We're not just talking about crayons. We're talking about the psychology of color, the power of words, and how these simple little tools can unlock so much creativity and make us feel connected to something bigger than ourselves.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to turn things over to you, our listener.
Mm.
What stood out to you the most in this exploration of Crayola crayon names?
Yeah.
Have any of these like kind of silly names brought back any memories for you, or maybe you found yourself thinking about like the deeper meaning of how we name colors and what they mean to us?
It's been quite a journey, hasn't it? I think for me the big takeaway is that even something as simple as a crayon can spark so much creativity and bring back so many memories, and it can even get us thinking about some pretty philosophical stuff. These names, they're not just names, they're like doorways to whole worlds of imagination and
I
memories.
love that. Doorways to different worlds.
Yeah.
That's so true. What about you? What world does your favorite Crayola color open up for you? What memories or feelings or whatever come to mind when you think of it?
That's what makes it so special, right? It's different for everyone. A color that might make one person think of something silly from their childhood might be really meaningful to someone else. There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about the connection you make with the color and the name.
So as people who love to be creative and come up with new ideas, is there anything we can learn from how Crayola names their crayons? Like beyond just the marketing stuff, is there something we can take away and use in our own lives?
Absolutely. Crayola is showing us that words are powerful, that they can really change how we see and experience things. They've shown that a name can turn something ordinary, like a crayon, into something fun and interesting and something you remember.
It's like they're giving us permission to be more creative, to be more playful, to be bolder with how we use words. And not just with crayons, it makes you think about how we name everything, products, businesses, even our ideas.
Exactly. They're challenging us to think outside the box, to give our words personality, to make them funny, to make them, spark a sense of wonder.
So next time you're trying to come up with a name for something, whether it's a project, a business, or even your pet goldfish, remember the Crayola crayon. Don't be afraid to be different, to be unexpected, to be razzmatazz.
Who knows? You might start a conversation or bring back a memory or even open up a whole new world for someone.
So well said. And on that note, we're going to wrap up this fun and colorful deep dive into the wacky world of Crayola crayon names.
Yeah.
We hope you've enjoyed this journey as much as we have.
It's been a pleasure exploring these little bits of creativity with you.
And remember, there are hundreds of Crayola colors out there, lots of them, with names that are just as interesting as the ones we've talked about. So go explore, see what you can find. Pay attention to the names that make you smile, the ones that make you stop and think, the ones that make you go, "What were they thinking?" You might be surprised by what you discover about yourself and about the amazing power of words.